Welcome to the Deep Dive. This is where we take the research, the articles, the data you've gathered, and really dig into it to pull out the key insights for you.
Exactly. And today we're looking at Zebec Network, specifically the ZBCN token. We're exploring the recent price movements and what the future predictions look like, all based strictly on the materials you sent over.
That's the plan. We'll sift through these different crypto analysis reports, try to understand the various price targets being thrown around, and figure out what these sources say is actually driving the price.
Yeah, the sources are mostly these analysis websites, full of technical charts, short-term guesses, and those longer range models.
Okay, and we have to say this right at the top super clearly. Everything we discussed today comes only from the source material you provided us. This is just for informational purposes.
Seriously, it is absolutely not financial advice, not investment advice, not even close.
We're just here to help make sense of what these specific reports are saying.
Please, always do your own research, DYOR, as they say. And definitely talk to a qualified financial advisor before you even think about making any investment moves.
Okay.
Couldn't agree more.
Right. With that essential disclaimer out of the way, let's jump into what these reports say about ZBCN right now and the recent buzz. Okay,
so the current price, it varies a little depending on which report you look at and exactly when it was updated. We're seeing figures like 0.000051, even 0.059 ASCII in the data from early June, say June 2nd to 5th.
And that's after some really wild action, right? Crypto.news pointed out an astonishing 440% surge in just 1 month. That was back in May.
Astonishing is the word. A huge run up. And it happened fast too. One source mentioned something like 127% jump just in the week leading up to May 29th.
Wow. So real explosive moves. How does the current price stack up against its all-time high then?
Well, the sources mentioned a recent peak, an ATH, around 0.000079 or 0.0007. Semi-CoinLore had it a bit lower, maybe 0.00645 on May 30th. By June 2nd, Crypto.news said it was already down about 15% from that high. And a few days later, June 5th, the Coin Codex and Coin Arbitrage bot data showed it had pulled back even more, maybe 25% to 31% off that peak. Depends on which numbers you compare.
Right. So a significant pullback after that massive rally. Do the reports give any reasons why that surge happened? What lit the fuse?
They point to a few key things, powerful updates to the platform, some exciting new features, things like that. But the big one seems to be the acquisition of ScienceCard.
ScienceCard, that's the UK fintech.
Yeah, apparently with over 50,000 users. So that's bringing a real user base into the fold. That was highlighted as a major factor.
Okay, so tangible growth. Anything else?
They also mentioned backing from Uphold, the exchange platform, and some hints or rumors about a potential collaboration with Ripple. The sources frame these as solid growth drivers.
Makes sense. News like that tends to get attention.
Definitely. And just for background, the reports mentioned the overall crypto market cap is somewhere in the 3.3 to 3.5 trillion dollar range, with Bitcoin dominance around 63%. Just setting the scene.
Got it. So moving on, how do these sources approach the technical analysis for ZBCN?
Right, the technicals. Using past price data, charts, indicators to try and, predict the future.
And what's the general feeling there, the sentiment?
Overwhelmingly bullish, according to the indicators compiled in these reports. Like Coin Codex on June 5th. 21 bullish signals versus only 5 bearish.
Wow.
Crypto.news around May 30th was similar. 22 bullish, 4 bearish. And CoinLore showed 10 buy signals versus 3 sell. So yeah, the technicals look positive based on this data.
That's pretty clear. But what about that fear and greed index? Coin Codex had it at 62.
Yeah, 62, which is categorized as greed. This index, it tries to measure market emotion, right? 0 is extreme fear, 100 is extreme greed.
And greed can sometimes be a contrarian signal.
Exactly. Some traders see high greed levels as a sign the market might be getting overheated, maybe due for a pullback. So it's an interesting contrast. The indicators look bullish, but the overall mood is leaning towards greedy.
Okay. What specific indicators did they highlight? Moving averages were mentioned, SMA, EMA.
Right. Simple and exponential moving averages. They basically smooth out the price data to help spot the underlying trend. The reports give specific values for the 50-day and 200-day averages for ZBCN. Generally, if the price is above rising averages, that's seen as bullish for that time frame. Some sources even look at hourly averages.
Okay. And the RSI? relative strength index.
Measures momentum, how fast and how much the price is changing. It helps spot if something is potentially overbought, usually above 70, or oversold below 30.
And where is ZBCN's RSI now, according to the reports?
It's pretty much in the neutral zone. CoinCodex had it around 58.4, CoinLore around 61.4, so not indicating extreme conditions right now.
Got it. And there were others mentioned too, Mimicidi, Bollinger Bands, pivot points.
Yeah, a whole toolkit analysts use. MACD for trend and momentum, Bollinger Bands for volatility, pivot points to identify potential support and resistance levels.
Support being where the price might stop falling, resistance where it might stop rising.
Exactly. For instance, one report flagged potential resistance around that 0.0007 settlement level near the recent high, and support levels down around, say, 0.000035 to 0.0038 or so.
Okay, so wrapping up the technicals. Sentiment looks bullish based on indicators, but the greed reading adds a note of caution. Now let's shift gears to the actual price predictions, starting short term.
Right, the forecasts. For the very immediate future, like the next day or two, CoinCodex was projecting ZBCN around 0.000506 by June 6th. CoinLore was similar, maybe 0.000048 cents, or slightly higher by mid-June.
Okay, so some agreement there, but looking out just a month, this is where things get, well, confusing based on these sources.
Yeah, they diverge massively. CoinCodex predicts a pretty significant drop. They see it falling over 24%, down to around 0.00038 part by early July.
A drop. Okay, but then
Coin Arbitrage Bot predicts a significant increase. They forecast a rise of over 20% in the next 30 days, up to about 0.00058.
So wait, one model says down 24%, another says up 20% for the same upcoming month.
Exactly. Completely opposite directions. It really underscores how different these predictive models can be. They might weigh factors differently. Maybe one focuses on the recent pullback, the other on the positive news.
It just shows these aren't guarantees, right? They're just model outputs.
Absolutely. And one source, based on its bearish outlook, even calculated potential profit from shorting, suggesting a hypothetical $1,000 short could make around $270 by September, before fees. Just an illustration from their model, of course.
Definitely not advice. Okay, so short term is a mixed bag, to put it mildly. Let's zoom out. What about the rest of 2025 and beyond?
Looking out to the end of 2025, the predictions are still quite spread out. CoinCodex actually seems a bit cautious for the rest of the year.
Cautious how?
Their model suggests ZBCN might trade mostly between roughly 0.00035 and 0.0015 cents. Their average price for the year ends up around 0.00039 down-X, with monthly averages staying sort of flat, maybe 0.0000307 to 0.00041S through December.
So CoinCodex basically sees it dipping from current levels and maybe trading sideways for the rest of 25.
That's their model's take, yes. But Coin Arbitrage Bot, much more bullish for year-end 2025. They predict 0.0012824.
Wow, that's over 165% up from the current price they cited.
Huge difference again. And CoinLore is somewhere in the middle, forecasting about 0.0000709 by end of 2025, which is roughly a 47% increase from their current price.
Yeah.
Their range for the year is like 0.0046, but then Wallet Investor being much lower, maxing out below 0.006.
Precisely. So the takeaway for 2025 is, well, there's no single consensus in these reports. Predictions range from sort of flat or down to significant gains.
Okay, what about further out, like 2026 through 2030? Did the models agree more then? Generally, yes. Most sources seem to show a bullish trend over the longer term, like the next 5 years or so. CoinCodex, for instance, projects an average price around 0.0083 FIJUs for 2026. That would be what? Over 180% ROI from their current price point. Okay. Coin Arbitrage Bot sees an average of sort of 0.0183 by 2030, potential for nearly 280% ROI based on their numbers. CoinLore's 2030 average is also up there, around $0.0161.
So the longer-term picture painted by these models is generally one of potential growth, assuming things play out as they forecast.
Yeah, the predicted highs keep climbing over the years in these models. CoinCodex hitting over 0.02 cents by 2029, Coin Arbitrage Bot even higher, maybe near 0.2028 cents by 2029.
And some reports go even further out, 2040, 2050.
A few do, yeah. CoinLore gives numbers like 0.055s for 2040, maybe even $0.08 by 2041. CoinCodex has a max estimate way out in 2050 reaching almost 12 cents.
12 cents. So significant long-term potential according to these projections. But there was a key caveat in the CoinCodex data, wasn't there, about hitting $1?
That's right, and it's important context. Their algorithm, based on its analysis, does not predict ZBCN reaching $1. Even with those high long-term targets, the peak in their model by 2050 is around that $1.12 mark.
So it puts a potential ceiling on the super optimistic scenarios, at least according to that one model.
Yeah.
Good dose of perspective.
Definitely.
Okay, so we have all these predictions conflicting short-term, mostly bullish long-term. What do the sources say causes these price moves? What are the influencing factors?
Well, they cover the usual suspects for crypto. First up, basic supply and demand. Always key.
Makes sense. Then the project-specific stuff.
Exactly. Fundamental developments, those protocol updates, new features we mentioned, the science card acquisition, partnerships like the potential Ripple thing. These are big drivers. Even broader crypto cycle events like Bitcoin halvings get factored into some models.
Okay. What about outside factors?
Huge impact potential there. Things like new regulations, good or bad, how much companies or even governments adopt the tech, security issues like exchange hacks can shake confidence, and, major real-world events.
Right. And market structure itself.
Yeah, that means things like the overall size of the market for ZBCN, its market cap.
Yeah.
And especially for smaller cap coins, the actions of big holders, the whales, can really move the needle.
And finally, tying back, the technical factors we discussed earlier also play a role.
Absolutely. The price history, those indicator signals like moving averages, RSI, chart patterns, traders watch all that, and their actions based on those signals influence the price too.
And just to remind ourselves what ZBCN actually is based on the sources, it's the Zebec Network token, right?
Yeah.
A payments platform started on Solana, then rebranded, launched ZBCN for governance, staking, fees.
Correct. And they also mentioned that 1-for-10 token split back in March 2024. That's the background for all this analysis.
And there was one slightly confusing bit in the data you provided. We should probably clear that up. The other Zebec token.
Yes. Good point. One of the coin lore sources seemed to be tracking a different token, ticker ZBC, also called Zebec.
Right. And the price for that ZBC was totally different, wasn't it? Around 0.0337. Much higher than the ZBCN prices we've been talking about.
Completely different price point, yeah. Different market cap, different predictions too. That source had ZBC going to 0.036 inches in 2025, over 0.008 cents by 2030. Numbers way higher than the ZBCN forecasts.
And its history was different. ATH over a year ago and a really low trading volume recently.
Exactly. The data for June 5th showed almost zero trading volume for that ZBC ticker. The source itself noted it might be more volatile because of that low liquidity.
So it's important for you, the listener, to know that while the ZBC data was in the material provided, our main focus here, based on all the other sources and the recent news, has been on ZBCN. Just need to be clear about that distinction based on the info we had.
Crucial clarification.
Okay.
So let's kind of wrap this all together for you. We've walked through the big price swings ZBCN has seen recently.
That huge surge and the pullback.
Right. We looked at the technical sentiment, which leans bullish according to the indicators in these reports, but with that greed reading maybe flashing caution.
Yeah. We saw the short-term forecasts are, well, all over the map, completely conflicting predictions for the next month from different models.
But then the longer-term views, looking years out, are generally more optimistic across these sources, projecting potential growth, even if one model specifically poured some cold water on the idea of it hitting $1.
And we talked about the factors driving the price fundamentals, like acquisitions, market sentiment, technicals, broader events.
The key takeaway here isn't a magic price number. As we saw, the models don't even agree on next month. The value, hopefully, is in helping you understand the different viewpoints that data analysts are using and the inherent uncertainty in predicting something like ZBCN's price.
Seeing these multiple sources, even the conflicting ones, gives you a broader sense of the current information landscape surrounding this token.
And just one last time. None of this was investment advice. It's all based purely on the sources you gave us. Always do your own homework.
Please do. Okay, quick summary. ZBCN saw a massive recent rally, likely fueled by news like the science card deal. Technicals look generally bullish per the reports.
But short-term predictions, highly divergent between sources.
Longer-term forecasts are mostly optimistic for growth over years, though maybe not reaching $1 according to one model.
And be mindful of the ZBC versus ZBCN distinction we found in the source material.
Right. So here's a final thought for you to chew on based on everything we've unpacked from your sources. Given how wildly different even the short-term price predictions are from these various analysis models, what does that really tell us about the difficulty, maybe even the futility, of trying to precisely forecast the price movements of volatile assets like ZBCN?
Definitely something to consider.
And that concludes this deep dive.